Hey guys, it's Destiny, and thankfully I am no longer sick, I think. Maybe. I'm not sure. But I played through the new 1.2 story recently, and it was really good in my opinion. I do wish it was a bit longer, but the cutscenes were honestly really good, and the story so far is really interesting. But what I wanted to discuss in today's video was Imbibitor Lunae, who is also known as the 5-star Dan Heng, and what we know about him, just being able to play him through the 1.2 story trial. Without further ado though, let's get straight into it. And of course, just as a little side note, I do not go over story spoilers in this video. I primarily only go over what I noticed about this character. But yeah, now let's get into it. Throughout playing the 1.2 story, you get a few opportunities to use Imbibitor Lunae in battle, and when you fight the new weekly boss, he does do an attack onto the boss, kind of like an assist with how when you fight the Cocolia boss, you have this big robot thing that kind of just punches her, but with this boss, we have a super cool animation that Imbibitor Lunae does, and it sure does a lot of damage. When we do get to play him initially, a few things I noticed is that he's an imaginary character who is also a destruction class character based on what we officially know from HoYoverse, as they have teased his splash art a little bit ago, and that we could also see he's imaginary and destruction. He seems to also have different animations with his skill, and also has orbs underneath his health bar. I noticed that the orbs went away after using his skill, and that in the story trial, they came right back immediately, but I would assume that the orbs are somehow linked to his skill due to how they'd briefly go away after using his attack, or at least linked to the damage he's performing. Another thing to note is that his skill seems to have various animations depending on how many times you click on the skill, which seems to be a total of 3 animations because it seems like you can click it up to 3 times, and they all seem to do different amounts of damage, which can suggest his skill has multiple attack forms, if you will, depending on how many times you click on it. I think this is personally really cool and kind of reminds me of how QQ can click on her skill multiple times to get the correct tiles if she does not have them already. So it's pretty cool that we have another character who has the potential to have their skill clicked on multiple times before attacking. His attack that he does in the weekly boss though does seem a bit different. So this can possibly be some form of an ultimate or maybe a different move entirely, I'm not too sure. But overall, the attack did a good amount of damage as well as his other attacks. He also had a good amount of crit rate and a okay amount of crit damage in the trial. But based on how many times he crits throughout the trial and also how many times his attacks seem to hit enemies, it seems like it's kind of like a Jingy Win situation with Lightning Lord, where you'd want a lot of crit rate and crit damage due to how many multi-hitting attacks there are from Lunae attacking. Of course, this is just speculation, but I do think based off like his initial gameplay that we were able to play, that crit might be a really good option overall due to how many times he was hitting enemies. I wish we could see his kits in game, but just based off playing the trial, these things are things I was able to observe and take note of. Before we get into possible partners and possibly even a relic suggestion I have in mind for him, if you are enjoying the video so far, consider subscribing for more Star content, and now let's carry on. Based on his playstyle from what we did get to play, he definitely looks like a main DPS character with really good damaging potential. I personally think that Yukong may actually be a really good partner to pair with him, due to her having a trace that buffs up imaginary damage of allies, and also due to how I recommended the crit rate and damage earlier, Yukong can buff crit rate, attack, and crit damage by quite a lot, especially with an invested Yukong, with upgrading her skill, her ultimate, and so on. So I think that this can possibly pair well with him, and it may be a good pairing overall, and could possibly introduce the full imaginary team with Well, Yukong, Locha, and Lunae. I would definitely want to play this team once he's here just to see how they perform, but Mono Imaginary may definitely be a possibility depending on how he is once he comes out, and also once we know more official information on him as a whole. We could also consider the other buffers as well for him due to how they can provide those attack increases, speed increase, crit damage, and so on depending on the buffer. But overall, I think Yukong may be the best due to what she can provide for him. and may open up more team comps as a whole and open up Yukong's usage as well. I know Yukong currently is either overshadowed, I feel like, by other buffers that exist. I know she's really good obviously with characters like Clara, but I do think that with Imbibitor that she will be really good with him as well. I do think debuffers can be a very strong option as well with him, such as Pela and Silverwolf and Welt. They're always nice options. Pela and Silverwolf will be amazing for debuffing enemies. Silverwolf can also possibly reduce the resistances to imaginary, so now he's doing even more damage. Pela can reduce their defenses and also get rid of a buff if they do have it, so that's always something to keep in mind. Walt is really good at slowing down enemies. You possibly could use the 4-piece imaginary set on Lunae, and maybe that can be a pretty good set overall. I would assume that this set is likely going to be one of his best sets. It seems that he would take advantage of the 4-piece imaginary set due to the fact that the imaginary damage boost is nice. Also the fact that he takes advantage of what seems like crit rate and crit damage. So I think this relic option is likely going to be a really good option on him. Of course though, there are also plenty of other team comp options I'm sure, and that can possibly be good options. But I just gave my initial thoughts on what I personally think regarding team comps and maybe even the relic set overall. That'll be all from my mini analysis though. Once we get more official information, or if we get to play him again in the game, I will discuss him more in depth. But I thought I'd make this video to share my thoughts on things I've noticed while playing him and maybe possible things you may have missed while playing him yourself. I do think he'll be a very powerful character, especially from what we've seen from the trial so far, and I cannot wait to know more officially about this character and also get to know more lore about him. The lore is really interesting. Of course, I'm not going to spoil that in this video, but if you guys possibly want me to talk about lore and stuff like that, you can let me know. I can just gather my thoughts and stuff like that. And I also want to see if my Yukong thoughts are possibly right, or if he's better off with the other buffers or even debuffers just in general, or just other teammates overall. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, consider subscribing, leave a like to support the video, and also comment down below if you are excited for this character overall. And like always, have a nice one. Peace.